Hey everyone, today I wanted to do a comparison between the Smith & Wesson Shield and the Glock 43. Now both of these are very good choices for a single stack concealed carry 9mm handgun. And I know a lot of people who are doing their research out there trying to decide what kind of gun's right for them for concealed carry have probably narrowed it down to these two options. So I want to take a chance to give you my opinions, give you my analysis, and try to help you decide which one is going to be right for you. So first, let me go ahead and knock out a lot of the specs between these two, and in so doing, try to give you a couple tally marks in each column for each of these. So hopefully I will not be lazy and I'll put up a graphic for these. But let me go ahead and start with price, since price is honestly going to play a big factor for a lot of people. Now, you'll hear a lot of people say, hey, what's your life worth? Don't skimp on a good gun, but I do think it's worth mentioning the price. Now the MSRP for the Glock 43 is going to be around $550. Typically you can find it for sub $500, maybe $480, somewhere in there, but it is MSRP'd at $550, whereas the Shield MSRP is around $450 and can often be found for less than $400. So that's definitely a big plus in the side of the Shield. The next one I'm going to talk about is the weight. So the weight for the Shield is 19 ounces unloaded, whereas the Glock 43 is a full ounce lighter at just a bit under 18 ounces, but for all intents and purposes, 18 ounces. So score one for the 43. Next, I'll go ahead and talk about the overall length here. Now, the difference is really negligible. It's a difference of about less than, well, maybe a tenth of an inch. But the Glock 43 here on my right is about 6 1/4 inches, whereas the Shield is 6.1 inches. So it's like 0.15 different. But the Shield is shorter. The barrel length in the 43 is a little bit longer at 3.4 inches, where the Shield is 3.1 inches. The width, again, is the difference is very slight, but the Glock 43 is a little bit wider at 1.02 inches, while the Shield is 0.95 inches, so a little bit thinner on this Shield. The height, this is where we have probably the biggest separation between the two. The Shield is significantly longer, almost a 1/4 of an inch longer, in fact. This one is 4.6 inches, whereas the Glock 43 is 4.25 inches, so 4 1/4 inches. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is, in my opinion, also one of the big deciding factors between the two, and that is ammo capacity. So the standard magazines that you get with the Shield, and you get both of them when you purchase it, you have a 7-round and an 8-round magazine. So this is effectively 7 or 8 plus 1, whereas the standard magazines you get with the Glock 43 is 6 plus 1. So you have at least 1, if not 2 rounds fewer on the Glock 43 than you do the Smith & Wesson Shield. And then sight radius is really negligible, literally a tenth of an inch different, with the Glock's sights being a little bit shorter at 5.2 inches, where the Shield is 5.3 inches. And now when I score these, basically what I'm looking for is the smallest possible gun, so anything thinner, shorter is going to win out there. So just for a frame of reference, but you can decide who wins what category for yourself. So hopefully I'll put a graphic up sharing all that for you. Now, one of the other things I want to talk about as far as the comparison is the trigger. Now, personally, I think, and I have an aftermarket trigger in my Glock 43, so I can't do a fair comparison right now, but I will say with the stock factory triggers, the the Smith & Wesson Shield here has, I think, a little bit, and seriously the difference is not much, but a little bit nicer trigger than the Glock 43. It seems a little bit lighter and a little bit easier to pull than the Glock 43. But that said, the difference is not that major. So that's a lot of the specs out of the way for you. Let me go ahead and transition on to just my overall opinions of these and my thoughts. Realistically, these are two very similar guns. I mean, they both have very close to the same size. They are both extremely reliable, and I want to make a point of that. one of the most important things when it comes to choosing a concealed carry handgun is reliability. If it doesn't go click, if it goes click instead of going bang when you pull the trigger, there's no reason to carry it. There's no reason to risk your life on a gun that may or may not work when you need it to. For me, both of these have been 100% reliable, with the exception of a couple issues that I had that were ammunition related and not gun related. I know it was ammunition related because it was the same lot of ammo, was doing it throughout multiple different guns, and it was also hand reloads where the guy wasn't gripping them properly. Anyway, so both of them have been 100% reliable. Another similarity, they are both very accurate for their size. To me, the difference is negligible between the accuracy between the two. A lot of it, as far as the inherent accuracy, some people might shoot one better than the other, but that's probably just because of the feel in their hand or their shooting mannerisms themselves. But their inherent accuracy to me is almost identical. Another big thing is the aftermarket support. Both of these are very, very popular guns. The Shield has been out significantly longer than the Glock 43, but that said, being a Smith & Wesson and being a Glock, there is endless aftermarket support. If you want to upgrade the trigger, you can. If you want to upgrade the sights, as I have on the Shield, to XS Big Dots, you can. If you want to do anything, there is someone making aftermarket parts for it, whether it be sights, modifications like magazine releases or slide locks or anything else. There's someone making it for them, and sights for the Glock 43 as well. So a lot of similarities there that make the choice very, very difficult. But there are two big differences that I think will be the determining factor for a lot of people. Now, one I've already talked about, and that is the magazine capacity. Even with the smallest magazine with a Shield, you get at least one extra round, and then it comes with a magazine that gives you 2 extra rounds, and it comes standard. You don't have to pay any more. With the Glock, the only thing you get, and you get 2 magazines, or at least I did, you get one of these with a little finger bump out, and then you also get one with a flush fit, which for the life of me I cannot find right now. So unfortunately I can't include it here, but I'll show you a picture. It literally is just a flat base plate. To a lot of people, myself included, ammo capacity is a really big deal. I like the idea of being able to have extra rounds. For those of you who have seen my other videos, that's why I'm trying out these Tango Down magazine extensions for the Glock 43 that give you 2 extra rounds. But again, when you start modifying factory mags, you start potentially messing around with the reliability. But it is what it is, and you have to take that into account for yourself. Now, while you do get 1 extra round, I want to make it clear that you are sacrificing some concealability, in my opinion. And I may or may not roll in pictures of what these actually look like concealed, but one of the biggest identifiers or risks when it comes to printing is the length of your grip, specifically the furthest back part of where your magazine is. So even on the one with the finger bump out, it's almost flush fit here at the back when it's actually inserted. So you're not getting really any added length there from the grip. So that's something to take into account. Whereas, as you can see here, when I line it up feed lips to feed lips, it is a little bit longer, like I said earlier, about 1/4 of an inch longer on the Smith & Wesson Shield. So that's going to make it just slightly less concealable than the Glock 43. But I mean, we're really nitpicking at this point to find a difference there. When you jump up to both of the 8-round magazines, the Glock 43 again is still going to be a little bit shorter at this rear portion, which is going to make it again just ever so slightly easier to conceal. One thing to take into account with concealment, though, is things with smoother curves are typically a little bit easier to conceal than things with blockier curves. And I don't know anyone who would not acknowledge that Glocks are typically more blocky than other guns out there. So while this is a little bit shorter, it's definitely a lot more squared off, whereas the Smith & Wesson magazines and even the gun itself have a much more curved grip, which is going to make your clothes drape a little bit easier around it and print just ever so slightly less. But again, I think ammo capacity is going to be a big determining factor for a lot of people, and even more importantly for other people is the option to have a manual safety on the Smith & Wesson Shield. Now this one, when I bought it, it had the manual safety. To be honest with you, I didn't want the one with the manual safety. I don't believe in manual safeties. I don't think they're necessary for safe use of a handgun. But I can make another video on that if you want more of my opinions on that. But for a lot of people, that is a really big deal. They want that manual safety. And the manual safety on this one is a really good one. If you don't like manual safeties, you can leave this off and it will stay off. I've never had it accidentally go on. And if you have it on, it will not accidentally go off. It's a very positive click from safe to fire. It's not going to happen accidentally. Now, one note real quick, if you do want to carry with the safety off, I still recommend when you're practicing your draws, flick that safety off. Just get into that habit, just in the 1% chance that it does accidentally actuate itself. It's going to go bang when you pull the trigger. So just practice that, just as a side note. If the safety doesn't make any difference to you, obviously the Glock 43 does not have an external manual safety. Now, Glocks do have plenty of safety features on the inside of the gun to make sure it will not fire unless you consciously pull that trigger. But again, it does not have that external manual safety that make a lot of people feel more comfortable when they're carrying concealed. So if that's a determining factor for you, then that's really all you need to know at this point. Now, other than those two issues right there with the manual safety and the ammunition capacity, really the only other determining factors are going to be totally subjective. Some people just like the look of the Shield more than they like the look of the Glock. That's, in some people's opinion. Now, I have modified I have modified this one with both aftermarket sights with the XS Big Dots, and I also did stippling on here, which I've done a video on, so you can look for that. But some people just really like the aesthetics of the Smith & Wesson series. Some people like the aesthetics of Glock pistols. So that's going to be a subjective choice for you. The feel. Sometimes guns fit better in some people's hands than others. My girlfriend has tiny, tiny hands, and her hand can grip onto the Glock 43 because it's a slightly shorter grip than she can onto the Smith & Wesson Shield. So that might be a determining factor for you. Another big deal, just brand loyalty. I know a lot of people who have the full-size Smith & Wessons who wanted the Shield because it's the same manual of arms, same feel, same everything. So they wanted to stick to what they know, basically, and that's why they chose the Shield. Me personally, I wanted the Glock 43 because most of my full-size handguns are Glocks, and therefore I like the feel of Glocks, I like the manual of arms of Glocks, so it just felt more natural for me. Now, I did buy the Shield first. If you want the story on that, basically what happened is after SHOT Show of 2015, when they did not announce the single stack 9mm at SHOT Show, I got fed up of waiting because Glock was really late to the market with these, and so I bought the Shield. Then later, I think it was at the NRA show, they finally announced, hey, we're going to have a single stack 9mm. So then I went ahead and bought this as soon as it came out. And honestly, I carry them both. Just FYI, my Glock, I typically carry in this NSR Tactical C4 holster. NSR Tactical makes really, really great holsters, so good option for you there. And then my Shield, I typically carry in this custom holster that I had my friend make, which I also have a review for if you're interested in that. One other thing that I do want to mention is that may or may not be worth mentioning is when you buy the Glock, it actually comes in a standard Glock hard plastic case. It's not lockable. I mean, you can kind of alter it to make it lockable, but it's not inherently lockable. It doesn't have a little spot for a deadbolt or anything like that. But it is a nice case, comes with a cleaning kit and everything else, whereas the Shield comes in a cardboard box. So typically if you want to take it to the range, most people are going to want to invest in either a pistol bag or something else because they don't want to carry a cardboard box into the range. So take that into account. The Glock 43 does come with one of their speed loaders. So if you have weaker hands, if you have arthritis or anything like that, this is a godsend to some people to be able to load their magazines quickly and efficiently and with minimal effort. So that is one nice thing that the Glock has going for it. To my memory, the Shield doesn't have anything like that with it, but there are aftermarket ones out there that you can use. So just throwing those factors out there. Now, if you still haven't made up your mind, what I would highly recommend doing is go to a local range if you have one and just try to rent them or shoot them if you can, just to get a feel for both. Because again, what's going to work for some people is not necessarily going to work for others. So while I really like the Glock 43, and I honestly do like the Shield a lot, one's going to shoot better in some people's hands than it will in other people's hands. So take that into account. Shoot them if you possibly can. But really, bottom line is, you're not going to go wrong either way. If you pick the Glock 43, I honestly think you're going to love the Glock 43. If you pick the Smith & Wesson Shield, I honestly think you're going to like the Smith & Wesson Shield. They are both very, very good guns. They are both well worth it, in my opinion, and I really don't think you're going to lose either way. So if you have any questions, or if there are other comparison videos you want to see from my channel, please leave that in the comment section below. Oh, one thing I do want to mention before I forget. One thing that, and actually the main reason why I swapped out the sights on my Smith & Wesson Shield is the factory sights are no snag sights, so they're a very just slanted front or rear sight, excuse me. And what that doesn't allow you to do is easy single-handed manipulation for malfunction clearing or anything like that. So I wanted something that had a little bit of a ridge there for me to be able to rack it off my belt if I have to. And then I also have the grip tape up here that I added to help assist with that as well. So that is something to consider. Whereas the Glock has the nice squared off rear sight, I would still highly recommend, as I plan on in the future, swapping these out to metal sights. But take that into account if single-handed malfunction clearing is a big deal to you, which I think it should be to more people, but that's something you only learn about by taking training. But again, all that aside, if you're interested in more of these comparison videos, please let me know. If you have any questions, throw that in the comment section below. I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. But really, as always, I hope you were able to get something out of this video, and I really appreciate you watching.